of over 5 million in a 12-month period are obligated to comply with.
For businesses, there is a threshold that you need to meet to be VAT compliant.
VAT obligated taxpayers at the time, or well currently, taxpayers who've hit a cumulative turnover of 5 million shillings. So that's something that you could hit in your first year of business, your third year, your fifth year of business, for example.
To ensure that all businesses are issuing valid tax invoices, KRA introduced electronic management systems, eTIMS, in 2023, targeting VAT and non-VAT obligated taxpayers.
eTIMS as a policy was published by KRA in January 2023. And this was based off experiences in other countries where they were starting to digitize the whole process of collecting tax information in real time.
The ETR and TIMS machines focus largely on VAT taxpayers, whereas eTIMS focuses on both VAT and non-VAT taxpayers. So basically, previously the VAT taxpayers were around 250,000. With eTIMS now, it's potentially millions of taxpayers that have been brought into this tax bracket.
The adoption of the new technology by KRA came with its own share of challenges. Business owners complained of lack of adequate knowledge in the transition journey to eTIMS.
It was a mixed bag of emotions. Why? Because one, they don't issue the systems in and of itself, the analog computerized systems that we use to be compliant with eTIMS. You have to get it from different providers.
A lot of people, especially the non-VAT taxpayers, maybe some of them have never filed taxes before. So some of
Thank you for your continued support. Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Migwe. Now, the conversation, we shifted to matters to do with disaster risk reduction. Now, over 400 million students globally are affected by school closures, and that stems from 2022. And this is as a result of natural disasters, which have been exacerbated, whose intensity and frequency has been exacerbated by the climate change. So this is where we are going to focus. But this focus now shifts to schools. And Colonel David Kipkirui Samoe, who is the director of the National Disaster Operations Center, is already in studio to help me in this conversation. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
How are you doing this morning?
Fine, thank you.
Yes. Now, when we are talking about disaster risk reduction, there's something to do with a comprehensive safety school framework that is being implemented. But first of all, what is the mandate of the National Disaster Operations Center?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. National Disaster Operations Center, first of all, came into being in 1998, following two disasters. One was the El Nino of 1997, and the other one was the bomb blast at the US Embassy in 1998. At that particular time, we did not have an institution that was supposed to respond to disasters. And KDF were called in to respond. And ever since that time, we've been operating as a multi-agency team in Nyayo House under the Ministry of Interior and National Administration. And this body has got staff drawn from different ministries. Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Defense, the National Police, and even the Ministry of Health. And our mandate since that time was to monitor, coordinate, and respond to disasters in the country. And we respond to disasters we call level 3 disasters. Disasters are in 4 levels, where level 4 is the international disaster, where the country calls in support from the international community. And level 2 and below is for the county government. So our mandate really is to ensure that the country is prepared to tackle disasters and respond to disasters as and when they come.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, before we even talk about the comprehensive safety school framework, yesterday was the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, and the theme was empowering the next generation for a resilient future. What is the importance of this theme?
Yes, very important, very important. I want my fellow Kenyans to know that the next generation, the preparation of the next generation is the most important activity at the moment. If we are not careful and prepare and protect the children, we may not have a generation in future. It depends also on how we handle these young lives. If we mismanage them, in future, they will not be able to settle down. We should be concerned on their education. We should be concerned with how they are brought up, what information they access, because at this stage, this is a stage where they are being shaped, and the focus of the entire country should be on the child. And we are using this day, the IDDR Day, International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction, to join hands with the international community and with the UN, who are implementing the Sendai framework. The Sendai framework has got 4 targets, and it has got 4 priorities and 7 targets. And one of them is empowering the child, to let the child know he's faced with a disaster. A child is innocent until an adult comes up and say, there is a problem here, be careful. And we want to use this opportunity to bring to the attention of our citizens that it is so important to take care of children. Our children are not being taken care of properly. If you look at the way they go to school, if you look at the way they even come out of school, even when in school, this child is not happy. The ultimate goal of a child is to be happy. He should enjoy life. If this child is brought up in an environment where the child is happy, the child is playing, he's enjoying the education, he'll be a good citizen. If you mismanage this child, this country will be in problems.
Yes.
Thank you, Mike.
Now, it's true what you're saying, and schools is supposed to be one of the safest places for students and pupils. Now, coming to the comprehensive safety framework, what is it about, and how is its implementation?
Yes, the implementation has been a problem, just like any other document in this country. We are very good in coming up with documents, you know. Yes. But we keep them somewhere, and we have a problem implementing them. But from the NDOC side, a National Disaster Operations side, we want to work hand in hand with the Ministry of Education and look at the schools which are really vulnerable. And the last disaster, the flood disaster, we call it MAM, March, April, May, helped us to identify those schools which are vulnerable. You remember during the second term, the opening of schools were delayed because some schools could not just open. It was impossible for these schools to be opened. And therefore, we sat down with the Ministry of Education and many other stakeholders in our house and try and have a conversation. How do we handle these problems instead of waiting until the disaster strikes? So one of the ways is implementing this manual the Ministry of Education has come up with. And going forward, there is a bill in Parliament which has gone through Parliament. It has also gone, it is now at the Senate, second reading in Senate. This will establish an authority. Currently, we are not an authority. We are just a department within the Ministry of Interior. And our work is really to monitor. But we will go beyond just monitoring and coordination and go further and see and visit these schools which are vulnerable and see, have they really implemented this this manual, because our children, the way they are right now, are at risk. They are at risk, and you can tell from when there is a problem like a fire. Doors are supposed to be closed. They are not supposed to be closed from outside. Sorry, inside. The windows are not supposed to have grills, for example. Yeah. These are very simple things, which it's so difficult, it's so easy to implement, but it's not being done. Even the classrooms. A classroom of 40 children, you find there are over 100 in a classroom. This is not supposed to be the case. So in terms of implementation, we will work closely with the relevant ministries, and hoping that the DRM bill, which is currently in Senate, will go through. It will give more teeth and more resources to the authority to be able to look at disasters in the country generally, and also forward-looking, because disasters are not going to be less. As the population is growing, disasters are going to become more, because disasters are a function of population. The more the population, the more disasters. And going forward, this climate change is a real thing. It is going to be more frequent and more intense. The drought itself will be more intense. The floods itself also will be more intense. And there are other related disasters which will accompany floods, like epidemics. Yes. So we need a very strong body that will prepare the country for these disasters. Thank you.
So how are you going to incorporate stakeholders like the counties? Because we understand many schools are in rural areas. How are you going to coordinate or collaborate with the counties in ensuring that this comprehensive safety school framework is effective?
Yeah, as I said again, the DRM bill, which is in Parliament, is going to spell out how we are going to spread across the country. And what we have done even before we get to the bill itself, currently as we sit, we are trying to reach out to the regions. We want to activate the 8 regions initially. We want to establish what we are calling EOC, where EOC is Emergency Operations Center. Yeah. At the moment, we have an EOC here at Nyai House, which is 24/7. It is operated 24 hours. But we want the same to be at the 8 regions, the 8 provinces, for a start, because of resources. And going forward, we will go down to the county. And at the county level, we will establish an EOC. People who will sit in an operation room and monitor disasters throughout the night and throughout the day. And we will work with the county government to make sure that resources are allocated also to the disaster. The Constitution provides for allocation of 2% of resources to issues disaster. And we will encourage the counties to do the same. And once we establish EOCs at the county level, it becomes more easier for us to implement some of these laws, especially in school, to monitor. But as it is now, we have to go all the way from Nairobi to visit particular areas. And we have got about 3 disaster-prone areas. The Lake Basin region, which is always affected by floods, and also the Tana Delta. Yes. These are very notorious of floods. Okay. And these are areas that we really need to focus more and look at how do we help the children and the schools that are in these places. Yes. And also make sure that these people have alternative IDP camps, because at the moment schools are being used as IDP camps. Yes. And they destroy schools and make it very difficult for learners once the schools are open to operate.
Yeah, because if you look at what happened during the second term, opening of the second term, it was pushed forward because some of these schools were acting as the IDP camps. Correct. Yes. But in this implementation, how are the schools adapting to this?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's not just the school community which is facing a challenge. The entire country is facing a challenge. Remember, this is an economy that is growing, and resources is always a challenge. But they are trying their level best. When you visit some of the schools, you can see an effort has been made. But there's still a big problem. Because if you find a school in a story building, and this story building is accommodating almost 3,000 children. I was told of a school in Western which has got 3,000 children in one school. To us in National Disaster Operations Center, this is already a risk, and something needs to be done about it. So, so far, much has been done, but more needs to be done in implementing the regulation on school safety. Our schools are not properly secure as they ought to be at the moment. Not just the school itself, even access to the school. Well, during the floods, some children could not access the school because the rivers or streams around these schools were flooded and children could not cross. Even the roads were so muddy. A 7-year-old child cannot walk to that school. So something needs to be done, other than just making sure that the child is safe while he's in class. Even access to the school needs to be relooked. Some schools need to spread out. Rather than bring all the children to one place, you can take especially grade 3 and below closer to their residential areas.
Yes. Thank you so much. And this is one of the topics that we are going to follow up because it involves schools, and we are looking forward to inviting you to have this conversation because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to disaster risk management. And thank you so much for making time.
Thank you so much.
That is Colonel David Kipkirui-Samoei, who is the director of the National Disaster Response Center. And now I will take you over to KICC, where the National Cohesion and Integration Commission and Kenya Editors Guild breakfast meeting is happening right about now.
For me, one of the most important contributions of Gen Z was to call for a conscience of the nation. And we have mentioned it in the achievements. The conscience of the nation, I say this because within no time, we even began to see change of behavior among politicians and the leaders. Those who had sirens in their cars, they silenced them because they didn't want to be seen. And people began to be even more courteous on the road. So there was this conscience of the nation, things that sometimes don't happen. And that is why in this booklet, I would like to draw your attention to the subtitle, The Quest for Political Decency and Accountability in Kenya. So the transgenerational conversations is really on the quest for political decency and accountability in Kenya. Why political decency? Of course, we are talking about governance, but I would say that in the elections roadmap that we had, the question of political decency came up very strongly. We even signed a charter with the presidential candidates and all registered political parties where we called for political decency. Because if politicians behave well in this country, I think there will be a very big difference in a nation building, if you will. And I want to say that as we meet here, we want to journey together to identify, in the journey, to identify those areas that we feel very strongly that the framework before you has identified, and we can work, we can partner together. To us, the media is both a mirror and a magnifying glass. It reflects our realities and it magnifies our aspirations. Much like a compass, it guides us through the uncharted waters of national discourse, helping us navigate the complexities of our society. And so today we delve into the role of media within the framework of Transgenerational Conversations framework, an initiative crucial for effective nation building. Now, there's a big question as to whether we are actually a nation as Kenya. Are we a nation or a country of many nationalities? Nation building obviously was identified as the journey that we needed to go at the advent of independence of this country. But very soon after that, even the first generation of African leaders, political leaders, they kind of abandoned the process of nation building. And that is why we are talking of, as it was said, the conflicts that we have between ethnic communities. One, I think, would argue that ethnic communities are more of nations than the country called Kenya. But one thing that we also want to emphasize here is that as generations, we don't have a culture of passing the baton to the next generation. And I think the original sin in this respect was the first government of this country. Getu Wakahengeri, when he spoke here, he made it very clear that many Kenyans who were genuine freedom fighters did not benefit from the fruits of independence. It is some of those who were even against Mau Mau who eventually became cabinet secretaries, permanent secretaries, etc., etc. And there are many Mau Mau fighters who did not benefit from the fruits of independence. And I think it is because of that then that generation that led to the first liberation did not pass the baton to the next generation. Because it is not, if they passed, it was one that did not lead to what were the aspirations of the liberation struggle in this country. Then we come to the second liberation, which also we could say we haven't seen how they pass the baton to the next generation. I say this because our country has a history of resistance and the struggles, right from immediately the colonialists landed here. Then there were very clear resistance in what they were trying to do, and we have mentioned it in this booklet. And because of those struggles and the resistance, this should have become part of our culture, political culture, but it didn't. Even the second liberation that we led to the new constitution, it too did not pass on a baton to an identifiable generation that is involved in resistance and struggle. And that is why the Gen Z, some of them were really surprised to know that we have generations of people who are still alive who were ready to pay with their life. And that is why they were shocked. And when they realized we have these older generations who themselves were struggling, then they realized that perhaps they have missed something when they said they don't want to debate, to have a dialogue with the older generation. And I think it's really important, and for us as NCSC, we welcomed the Gen Z when they said they will embrace the transgenerational conversations. Because as we say, each generation has something to pass on to the next generation. Our education system perhaps should be the one that provides a process through which wisdom and knowledge and experience of one generation is passed to the next. But that is not the philosophy and the curricula of our education system does not cover that, because basically it just teaches and it prepares students to pass the examination. And that is why I say we are not a nation yet. As we continue, we know that we have a society that is changing rapidly, and the pivotal role of the media in shaping conversations across generations is very vital. As we navigate the complexities of our national identity and the collective future, particularly in a diverse country as
Well, that is Reverend Dr. Samuel Kobia speaking at a breakfast meeting between the National Cohesion and Integration Commission and Editors Guild, in a meeting that is themed transgenerational conversation and narrowing down to the role of media in transgenerational conversations, the quest for political decency and accountability in Kenya. Well, we'll bring more on that in our subsequent bulletin, but this is where we cap Good Morning Kenya. Thank you for tuning in, and on behalf of my colleagues, that is Victor Olo, Vivian Dego, and Marie Yambo, asante sana for watching. I leave you with the weather report. My name is Mike Migwe. Keep it KBC.
Kwanza nishukuru President wa Jamhuri ya Kenya kwa kutambua kaunti ndogo kabisa kama Kwale na Mashujaa kuileta jimbo la mama. Tumejitayarisha vya kutosha, we are ready to host Mashujaa. Already tulikuwa tumeanza kutengeneza Kwale Stadium na national government imetuletea support. Saizi Kwale Stadium is almost complete. Pia barabara zile ambazo zinaelekea stadium, pia nataka nishukuru serikali imeleta manpower. Kazi inaendelea hapo.
Kupitia ujenzi wa Kwale Stadium, tumeweza create job opportunities for more than 1,000 people katika hii stadium. Kazi tofauti zimekuwa zikiendelea kama vile masonry works, tumekuwa na watu wa welding works, kufanya kokoto, watu wa kufunga chuma, watu wa kupaka rangi, plumbing. Kumekuwa na watu ambao wanafanya kazi ya electrical works, watu ambao wanapanga cabros, watu ambao wanajenga channels na cabs za parking areas. Hizo zote zimefanyika katika huu mradi.
Nilisikia kwamba kutakuwa Mashujaa wa 2024 mwezi wa 10 itakuwa kaunti ya Kwale. Na kama mimi ni mkaji hapa Kwale, ndio tukaambiwa mafundi wanatakana hapa kuja kutengeza hizi grill. Mimi ni steel fabricator. Sasa kwa sasa tunaendelea kuweka grill katika hii stadium yetu ya kaunti ya Kwale.
Mimi ni fundi wa mason hapa wa kujenga. Ninashukuru kwa mradi. Tangu nianze hapa kwenye ninafanya hii kazi, shukrani sana tu kwa sababu kuna mambo mengi nimefanya kuhusu mradi. Inanipatia riski yani. Na kula na familia yangu.
Kuna barabara ambazo zingekuwa pengine zingetutake time kama county government kumalizia, lakini kwa sasa hivi kwa muda mfupi serikali ya kitaifa imeweza kutusaidia. Stadium pengine ingenichukua quite some time kitambo tumalizane nayo, lakini ile boost ambayo imetoka from national government imetumalizia. So by the time Mashujaa inaisha, sisi tutakuwa bado na stadium yetu, tunacheza mpira hapo mpaka usiku, pia tutacheza mpira hapo. Maanisha after Mashujaa Kwale County itakuwa imebenefits.
Hapa kwa site tunasaidiana na fundi, kazi ya fundi Kenya anafanya, namsaidia kama ni kitu anahitaji, unaweza kumsaidia kama ni plaster kuchapa, plaster hivyo mpaka iishe. Hii kazi inanisaidia sababu nasomesha, inanisaidia tena sana kimaisha, kulipa nyumba, nasaidia pia watu nyongu nyumbani wakopoa hivyo.
Mimi ni msanii hapa Kwale, niko eneo hili kwa hisani ya kutafuta pesa ili niweze kuendesha muziki wangu vizuri na kuendesha familia yangu. Kwa huu mradi nashukuru sana, nimefanikiwa kupata sehemu ya uwanja. Tulianza na kupanda nyasi, kufagia uwanja, sasa hivi tunakoroga zege kando kando ya uwanja.
Sherehe kuandaa iko na components mingi. Components mbili, ile ya maana sana, ile muhimu sana ni kwa stadium, mahali sherehe kwenyewe kutakuwa. Kile kingine ni ile tunaita garden party ama mahali luncheon itakuwa, mahali president atakuwa na luncheon na viongozi na wananchi. Hapa Kwale hiyo sherehe ya garden party itafanyika county commissioner's residence. Na maandalishi imeenda hapo mingi. Ile nyumba ambayo ilikuwa pale iliangushwa chini.